Kwanzaa?
I don't celebrate that. It was started by a traitor to black people, Ron Everett, aka the Maulana Ron Karenga, in 1966. The first meetings were at Lamert Park on Crenshaw in LA. And it turns out that the avowed purpose was so that black people could be encouraged to talk so he could provide more information to LAPD and the FBI. More people got killed because of that scoundrel and the folk that were pushing him at that time than you can be comfortable with. A lot of people I'm personally acquainted with died because of that clown. He went to the penitentiary for torturing several black women because he thought they were trying to poison him. He got out of the state penitentiary after doing 1 year, 1 day, and within 2 weeks, he was a tenured professor at the state university system. He killed off John Huggins and Bunchy Carter at UCLA and tried to terrorize the black women out there so he could get a black studies program that he ran that was a 4-year program in usology. He was a snitch, a sneak, and a lowdown, egotistical, maniacal, crazy man. And I challenged it and say it to its face, said it to their face back when. So I do not celebrate Kwanzaa because I do not celebrate anything where somebody was trying to snitch out the good things that black people were trying to do in their communities between 1965 and 1968 when that other scoundrel, Richard Tricky Dick, I am not a crook Nixon, got into the White House.
So Kwanzaa, it starts, I believe, December 26th after Christmas. Kwanzaa is a week-long celebration held in the United States that honors African heritage and African-American culture. Kwanzaa is observed from December 26th to January 1st and culminates in gift giving and a big feast. Dr. Karenga created 7 guiding principles.
He's a complete treasonous, sellout, bought off, weirdo asshole.
Now, I get that.
That's personal.
And right, it's personal but factual. However,
and like the first 100 million man, the first million man march on Washington, Minister Louis Farrakhan said, and a lot of people object to this, but in, let's say, the interest of reconciliation, perhaps we might allow Ron Karenga to speak to the group. Now, I know some people are very much against this, but we're going to let him speak in the spirit of reconciliation. A lot of people hate that MF for what he did in the black community out in LA and all the people he got killed and all of the people he sold out and all of the black movement that was crushed because his folk came in, infiltrated meetings, took shorthand notes, and got a lot of people prosecuted because the FBI thought what they said was inflammatory.
Now, so you're saying black people shouldn't celebrate it because he created it?
The other thing is come up with a real African holiday, and celebrating that part of the season is questionable anyway, but they might go dig a little bit deeper and find out something that clown didn't start up so he could get people to pay his idiot boot dancers who would do these line dances in rubber boots like they were supposed to be scrubbing the gutters in Pretoria, South Africa.
Well, what about the representation of Kwanzaa? You know, because it's 7 candles and they each mean something.
Yeah, I know.
Umoja for unity. Kangala.
I refuse to celebrate an enemy. I refuse to celebrate all of the black men and women that died or suffered at the hands of snitches like that. I refuse to sit there and celebrate anything that comes from a creature who is one of quite a few who did every damn thing they can because they were opportunistic pimps of the moment 50 plus years ago that has led us to where we are right now. And what we had was a beautiful black thing that was gathering momentum, got to the point where nobody could trust anybody because of what charlatans like that fool did.
True. So basically, it is important to understand how the root of something was created. Like, can you bypass him, don't acknowledge him, but celebrate the principles of Kwanzaa, which is something positive, unity, purpose,
You might be able to, but I can't.
right?
I hold that
Cooperative
grudge. And what I
economics,
say, fruit don't fall far from the tree. And it
collect,
fell from that collective poisonous tree. Now, there were some good people in the US organization, but one of the big problems was that there was a gang called the Businessmen in LA that went defunct after the LA uprising in 1965. A lot of those young men were in the penitentiary serving time, and when they got out, they got recruited to the US organization. There were also some fine people that got in there, some of whom I know to this day and I consider close and personal friends. But other than that, the organization was poisonous, and they were too damn young and insignificant in one sense at the time to know what they were getting into, other than it was a thing to do because everybody wanted to be, we called it, relevant. So, yeah. And watch out for that because it's happening right now. A whole lot of people that are talking smack about you need to do this, you need to believe that, you need to follow that. They're nothing but pimps and sellouts because they got things that compromise them and somebody's holding it over their heads. And they're saying, just like any other snitch does, don't come after me if I give you somebody else.
yeah.
A warning.
So no Kwanzaa, just like no Juneteenth, no Kwanzaa.
Hell no.
Should we celebrate Kwanzaa? Is Kwanzaa something that is viable to us? Can we utilize the principles of Kwanzaa if, in fact, Ron Karenga is associated with the FBI and was used through the US organization to help bring down the Black Panther Party? So, Pat, we're gonna start with you today, man. So, what are your thoughts on what Judge Joe Brown was talking about, Kwanzaa, Ron Karenga, and the whole us not celebrating it?
I agree with him. Maybe not not as fervently. No, I mean, look, I think like I said, I was looking into it when it was first introduced to me, and there was just too many holes in it and too many things that didn't make sense for me to like, because I feel like there are two reasons that something should be celebrated, right? A cultural tradition based on something real and relevant to that culture, or historical significance based on a person that did something impactful. And so when I'm looking at Kwanzaa, well, first off, I'm looking at Ron, and I'm like, okay, well, that is not somebody we should be celebrating. And we have to understand that when you celebrate somebody's creation, you're in fact celebrating them. So, but then the other thing just became the disconnect between the original intended purpose, which was to replace Christmas, give Black people a reason to do something other than Christmas. And then it became something that Black people celebrated alongside Christmas. And now it's something Black people celebrate alongside Christmas and Hanukkah. So it's like, all right, so it kind of loses its significance as anything significant when you can mix it with everything, and all of those other things are still more significant. So there was a disconnect on a bunch of different levels for me about why this holiday, why this set of dates should be celebrated and all these other things. And then the other thing was just like the tenets I agree with. Like, it's hard to read the tenets and not like, you don't read the tenets and be like, man, fuck unity. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that don't make sense. Yeah.
Right. Like everybody agrees. Right. Like self-determination. Ew, that's for bitches. Like everybody agrees with the principles. But it's everything else around the principles. And then it's also like, what do the principles mean in relation to everything else? Like, how are they being taught? How are they being passed on? How are they being instructed? Is this a day by day thing? Is this a period thing? Is this a whole year round thing? Is this like, you got all these questions about it that everybody chooses to answer and express differently. And with that, I'll land my plane because you and Professor are more historians than I am.
Well, PC, you heard what Pat said. You heard what Judge Joe Brown said. What do you say?
I mean, and I don't want to sound crazy because once upon a time I did celebrate Kwanzaa, just based on the principles alone. Um, Prior to knowing the full detail of Ron Karenga's history, and I'll be honest, I stepped away from a lot of things that don't seem to amount to anything more than pageantry for Black people. So I don't necessarily, so me moving away from it, from Kwanzaa and all the other different things that come with it, happened more so from that. But I will say this, you know, and this is not the first time I've seen Judge Joe Brown say that,
Right.
that interview with the real Dana. I've seen it. I think I saw it when he first did it years ago. But, you know, we've been really talking about integrity. Like we really land our like we stand on business when we start talking about integrity. Right. So and you think about and Patrick said something that's very important. And um when you look at the origin of something, right, you have to take into consideration the people that generated the place it was generated because that's where the spirit is going to come from. The spirit of that particular thing. And you give it life. Now, if it's done so with such a corrupt character, a corrupt person, person with a corrupt, spiritual base, and I'm just saying that based on his actions, torturing people and coming snitch for the FBI, and and several sources have pointed to him being responsible to Black Panthers losing their lives. You know, based on his cooperation with the FBI. Then you have to ask yourself, then how can you celebrate this when this man is not showing integrity? You know what I'm saying? Because if you are integral by any means, then you wouldn't have been you wouldn't have been accused of any of those things. You wouldn't have done those things. So um, so then nothing really positive or community building can come out of that. I mean, his life's work was what destroyed the nation building aspect of the Panthers, in many cases.
Right.
So, and then there's some other things too, because like I said, character and integrity matters. We've talked about that before. Like all three of us knows people in our past that have done something to one of us. And we looked at it and said, you know what? All right, now we have to ostracize you because you violated somebody that was a member of our brotherhood, and in that violation, then you violate us, and therefore we have to ostracize you from being connected. We can't even work with you. We can't even deal with any of your creations or ideas because it wasn't done in good faith. Well, then you look at this particular celebration, if you want to call it that. Like I said, I call it pageantry. Um, and then you have to move accordingly. I think integrity is what's missing in a lot of things we do. By the way, you look at um, the spiritual connection to the lighting of the candle, right? What because that's a ritual. When you start lighting candles, those are rituals, and especially when you do it in the name of something, it's a ritual. And people, especially those who study or live by the tenets of African spiritual culture. Black candle is something we never, I'm not saying never, unless you're instructed by a priest, you don't touch black candles because black candles are aligned with witchcraft. Black candles are aligned with occultist type works, and and they're aligned with black magic. So we don't touch those because now you're entering and you're unleashing things that you don't know the power of. And so unless it's been instructed, we don't touch those things. Um and and thirdly, man, and I got more, but you think of the language. Now the tenets I can deal with. The tenets I can deal with. I think you don't need to be a practitioner of the Kwanzaa holiday season to operate the tenets. They're honorable tenets. The things we should be doing anyway. Well, hell, you could say that about the Ten Commandments too. So, you know what I'm saying? um, or you could say it about the different principles of my eye. You know what I'm saying? That we can live by. There are other things that we can do, utilize to speak to being righteous and doing right by people and being honorable. So you
Yeah.
don't. So it doesn't have to be this day. And Judge Joe Brown, he spoke on something he didn't talk about celebrating this time of the year, right? Black people, for people who understand like our cultural origins, January 1st is the New Year for us. The New Year is the first day of spring because that's when the world comes alive again. Like this, we celebrate and like we celebrate
It's in the dead of winter.
in the dead of the winter when everything dies. You know what I'm saying? So, and so I'm gonna come back to the Swahili part, but I do want to speak on the Asian part because that agent infiltration piece is something that,
Let's come back to that.
okay,
I do want to get to that because I want to spend some quality time on that.
okay. Well, then I'm
I
gonna
wanna
land my
come back.
plane right there because we got a lot of show ahead of us.
Yeah, but no, I got some carved out for that. So yeah, because like I say, so I'm the greenhorn of the three of us because hey, up until starting to do research for this, I never thought negatively of the observance or celebration of Kwanzaa. Now, from my experience, Kwanzaa has always been half-heartedly celebrated by Black people. It's not something that a great number of Black people have celebrated, or even a number of people have taken serious. So I know Kwanzaa celebrations here in Tallahassee, I would attend with the May family, and so Miss May would have her annual Kwanzaa celebrations. I would come and I would give my Black history presentations and things like that. Never thought ill of Kwanzaa. Like I said, I've only heard rumors about Ron Karenga maybe being part of the FBI, but never had any hard information. Then I started preparing for this show. And I came across a lot of information, like I said in the intro, came across a lot of information that I did not know about that was connected with Ron Karenga, him being connected to the murders of Bunchy Carter and what's the other gentleman, the other Black Panther? It was Bunchy Carter and y'all know the name. Help me out.
That's good question. I'm not even gonna lie and say I actually remember.
John Huggins. John Huggins. Okay. Yeah. So Bunchy Carter and John Huggins. They were learning that Bunchy Carter and John Huggins were killed by or unalived, unalived for YouTube. They were unalived by members of US, and US was the organization that Karenga was a part of. US stand for United Slaves, and US basically, from a lot of information I came across, that US was working with the FBI. And from some of the information that I saw, after the gentlemen from US unalived Bunchy Carter and John Huggins, a lot of people believe that led to a lot of the FBI raids of the Black Panthers across the country and a lot more infiltration of the Black Panthers across the country by FBI agents. And so seeing all of that, because I've read several pieces of information. And I put the link to everything that I was reading in the description. And so read several pieces of information that link Ron Karenga to the unaliving of Bunchy Carter and John Huggins. Also, the information that I learned about Ron Karenga going to prison for the torturing of the women in the organization that PC alluded to. So, according to the information, allegedly, or I'm gonna say allegedly to save us though, but he and his wife were charged with kidnapping and torturing women that were in the that were a part of the US organization who they believed to be snitches, and then it was turned out that, like Judge Joe Brown said, turned out that those women were not snitches. So they did a lot of bad things to a lot of people, but